Welcome everyone to the Swedish market webinar about e-commerce. My name is Kristi Kivi-Frimpong and I am EAS Export Advisor in Sweden. I am located in Malmö. We are very happy to see that there are so many companies interested about e-commerce. We have actually over 100 companies registered for this webinar today, and I saw the last number was 45. I think we are here, so we just take a couple of moments more. While we are waiting, I would like to go through about a couple of practicalities. So this webinar is recorded, and that means that you can rewatch it later on. All the slides we share here today will be sent to you after the webinar as well. And during the webinar, you have an opportunity to ask questions in Q&A, and it will be my colleague Peter who is in charge of that throughout the webinar. If you have any questions after the webinar, market-specific questions, please don't hesitate to contact us export advisors. You will find our contacts on the last slide. But I will now go on and introduce you to my colleague who is located in Stockholm. So Peter, now I will give the word to you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Kristi. Well, we're quite excited to get away with this market seminar. As Kristi said, I'll be answering your questions on behalf of Patrik, who wants the questions during. So we'll try to answer as much as possible. With the Q&A, it allows us to structure it better. So before you post a new question, just see if the question already has been asked, and then give that thumbs up, and then we can see what question that most thumbs up, and then we will of course ask Patrik that question first. And
now we can see you.
And now you can see me.
Yes.
Good morning. So that's in a nutshell how it's going to work. That we will just ask the questions on behalf of you. Just as a trial and error, can you post? Some of you post a question in Q&A, so I can see that it works.
Perfect.
Good morning. Thank you. Okay. Well, I guess that we are ready to get along. The weather in Stockholm is quite nice. Thank you. Almost 20 degrees.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter, so much for the introduction. Since the focus of this webinar is e-commerce, then we have, of course, invited one of the most experienced experts within this field. And actually, I don't think I need to say much more. I would like to now introduce you to Patrik Müller from Nets.
Thank you very much, and nice to be here in a digital way, at least in the webinar. I'm sitting at home in Stockholm, and is of course in a lockdown. That's the way it is. It's day. Let's see, it's day 74 in lockdown for me. Starting to get used to doing this thing. Just hang on, I'm gonna try to find. There you have it. All right, and you probably see a picture of me now and my contact details. You're free to, of course, connect with me on LinkedIn and keep the dialogue there, or if you just want to email me some questions, that's fine as well. A few words about Nets then. Nets is quite a big company that's present basically all over Europe, and we have a lot of merchants. We have 700,000 merchants. That includes 140,000 e-commerce merchants. So we have a lot of experience in the e-commerce field. We do a lot of other stuff as well, but I am active in the e-commerce area. And Nets is doing everything. We are doing everything in the lifespan of a store. It could be online, it could be offline. We do loyalty programs. We have omni-channel solution. That means that you can buy online and pick up in the store just using your credit card as ID. We have acquiring, of course, and a lot of other stuff. The most recent thing we have done is a new payment, an integrated payment window. This is a demo of it. So when you go to the checkout, if you have purchased anything in any of those thousands of stores that has this checkout window, all your information is already there. You have saved your different addresses. You can of course choose between them, and also the payment methods that are the ones that being used in the country. This is Norway, so here you have Vipps, which is a mobile wallet, but also card, or if you want to pay with invoice. So that means if you're always using cards or always using Vipps and always using the same address, you can buy with one click. So that's the big news within my area, where we have a very smooth payment experience. Enough about Nets, at least for a while. Let's have a look at the status of the Swedish e-commerce. Every year we do a report that we have done for, I think it's 13 years, yes. And we are doing this in the Nordics, and we ask, I think it's 7,000 consumers, a lot of questions. And based on that, we can calculate a lot of things like the turnover in each market. So Sweden stands for 37% of the e-commerce in the Nordics. And that's about 30 billion euros, and is of course the largest e-commerce market in Nordic. Quite mature. If we grade them by maturity, I would say it's Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and there are a lot of differences between Finland and Sweden. I'm going to show you a few other differences as well later on. But if you look at the Swedish part of the e-commerce in the Nordics, you have three parts. The largest one is to travel, and I also might have to say here that normally maybe you're thinking e-commerce, that is just physical goods, but e-commerce are basically all everything that you buy online, and you can buy a trip online, you can buy an insurance online, So we have a very broad perspective on the e-commerce area. So travel is the biggest one, also the one that is most mature. There are very few travel agencies where you can walk in and buy a trip. Very, very few. Physical goods, of course, maybe the most the part that is most associated with e-commerce as a term. 37% of the e-commerce in Sweden is physical goods, and then we have services, and services could be like insurances, it could be tickets and other stuff. Travel is, of course, under pressure right now. If we would measure this today, I would say the travel would be perhaps a few percentage, and that would consist mainly of tickets for commuting. Currently, there are no sales of like holiday trips and stuff like that in Sweden. And the physical part is exploding, of course. But we don't only shop in our own market. We are living in a digital world. That means that whole world is open to us. So we are shopping from many different countries. And please also note, if 38% of the Swedish people shop from a foreign web shop during a 3-month period, that isn't the true number, because often it's hard to understand if a shop is a foreign web shop. Often they try to be perceived like a Swedish one, and those who are good at that, they are accepted almost like a Swedish web shop. So in top we have England, then Germany, then China, and here you can see there are some changes compared to the 2018. Then you had China on top, and that is a big change. That is basically depending on that the couriers nowadays let people pay custom fees for this. Previously, we didn't pay anything, even though we should. So that immediately changed how many that shop from China. That was in many ways more entertainment shopping from China, shopping often stuff that didn't work, that was impossible to return due to the cost. If you buy something for 20 euro, it might cost you 25 to return it, even though you had free shipping from China, which in turn was due to the fact that the postal industry is considering China a developing country, which seems very strange, but they have started to negotiate this deal, but still they had fees that wasn't really wasn't mirroring the real costs. But you can also see that we don't shop that much from our neighboring countries. It's Denmark at place what is it, number 5, and it's only 8%. So it's really the fact is that the whole world is open to us when we are shopping. It could also be interesting to have a look at why did you shop from international shop. It's quite what you expect. Lower prices, products that isn't available in Sweden, and wider choice and stuff like that. But if you look at why didn't you shop from an international web shop, we're asking those who hasn't bought anything during the period of 3 months where we measure this. And there you have a lot of interesting facts that you can use if you want to sell to another country. Unsure about custom and VAT, a perception that it is hard to return the products, unsure about the terms and conditions in the store, unsure about my rights as a consumer, and so on. So this gives you a clue on what you need to address when you sell to other countries. If you want to sell to any of the Nordic countries, you can go into our report and see how exactly does it look in, like this is Sweden, but if you want to sell to Norway or Denmark or Finland. Yes?
We have a question.
Great.
In your opinion, how will the e-commerce activity with China change after the Corona crisis?
It will basically drop to the floor, and there are several reasons for this. One reason is that a lot of couriers this has been loosening up now, but they have been very careful about packages from China or Asia in general. There were, I think it was maybe 2 months that the main courier in Sweden, PostNord, they stopped handling packages from China and maybe a few other countries as well. But also consumers' mindset now are put in a sort of crisis mode, which means that shopping as entertainment isn't really working. And also we can see that consumers are a little bit more aware now about the effects of buying from China from an environmental point of view. So there are a lot of reasons that the shopping spree that we had before won't probably exist again. That doesn't mean we won't have a China trade, but it will be much, much lower. And currently it's very, very low.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. So use this as a kind of checklist when you are selling to other countries. I can see that a lot of web shops aren't really addressing these things when they are selling to other countries. But if you think about it, you probably have some grip about your consumer rights. You're probably not an expert on this, and you're probably a little bit unsure on the details. What are my rights as a consumer in my own country? And then move that unsureness to another country. You're shopping from another country. Then you probably don't know anything. What are my rights here? So you probably need to be clear when you're selling in another country and showing that you are like an Estonian company. Sometimes you can look like a Swedish company. You have good translations. There are nothing that reveals that you're not a Swedish, but that costs money and that's a little bit hard. You need some kind of local presence probably, or having a local working in your company. So I don't know if you see this, but I'm a payment geek. So payments are, of course, something that I'm really, really interested in. And luckily, this is also important in the e-commerce market. If we look on how the Swedes prefer to pay, we can see we have number 1 is card, number 2 is invoice, number 3 is online banking payment, and number 4 is Swish, number 5 is PayPal, and that's basically it. And the standard setup in Sweden is card, invoice, and Swish. And I think I need to explain a little bit about Swish and online bank payments here. Online bank payments is the old school way of doing account-to-account payments. And Swish is the new way, and that's Swish is a mobile wallet. So you just have your app, and it's very easy to do payment. When it comes to online bank payments, it's a little bit harder in many ways, both for a merchant that leads an agreement with every bank, and when it comes to Swish, just one agreement. Swish are in the process basically of replacing online bank payments. So my advice is to offer at least card, invoice, and Swish. That's the basic offer, I would say. You could add PayPal if you already have it, or if you are identified as a foreign shop. It's very clear that you're an Estonian shop for the one that make the purchase. Swedes are very used to use PayPal, especially in when they are shopping from abroad. Other payment methods like Apple Pay have had a lot of PR buzz in the media. And I love Apple Pay. I love the way they have set it up. But of course, to have an impact in a market where everything is already working quite well, the risks are quite low, and you need to have an Apple device. You need to have a card that is connected, that the bank has connected to the Apple system, and a few other things that together makes this payment option a little bit obsolete, I would say, in the e-commerce market, but not in the physical space. This is not in English, but just quickly wanted to show you that there are a lot of differences in the different countries. So if you look at here in Sweden, you see that it's card, and then it's invoice, and then it's Swish. If you look in Denmark, it's card, mobile pay, which is their version of Swish, a mobile wallet. And then comes PayPal, and invoice, faktura in Swedish, is only 8%.
That's right.
And that is the case in every country, all different. Yes?
There is a question, how about Klarna as a payment method?
Klarna isn't a payment method. Klarna is a collection of payment methods, much like the demo I showed you on our payment window, where you have the possibility to do invoice, and invoice could be invoice like I'm paying all right now, or installment. I get an invoice and I pay it in several installments. So they offer card, they offer invoice, but they don't offer Swish, which is a very, very strong brand in Sweden. I think they have the Swedes' knowledge about the brand Swish is like 99%, and that is also approximately how many Swedes that are using Swish. So Klarna is a supplier like Nets.
So your advice would be, if you do have a homepage, you should definitely include Swish as a payment option.
Yeah, absolutely. So card, invoice, and Swish, that's the base. And after that, you can consider adding some other stuff. However, it could be that you are offering, let's say that you have, you are offering a service, or you're offering something that means that you offer a subscription to the consumer. In that case, Swish isn't good for subscriptions. In that case, you probably would like to go for card only. So that was an example that you need to consider your business and your business model before choosing your payment mix. And that is something that we at Netsor, and of course the guys at Klarna or the other of our competitors can help you with. So if they're any good, they know exactly what to offer you after you have described what your business is.
Patrik, one question from me too before you go ahead. You mentioned invoice. Can you comment about, is it B2B where they use invoice, and what is the age group? Because I think that could be a relevant question for Estonian companies as well, as we are used to pay everything online. Can you comment about that?
Yeah, invoicing isn't really invoicing so much nowadays. If you think invoicing is sending a paper invoice that you manually pay, because there are several things that has made invoicing a little bit easier, like having them paid automatically in your online bank, so it's more of a thing for, if you're talking about consumers now, the thing the consumers like invoice is that they make the payment after they have received the goods. So for consumers that feel a little bit unsecure, the unsecureness could be they are not used to shopping online, or it could be that they are used to shop online but are shopping at the store they don't really feel confident in. Then they perhaps choose invoice. So invoice is basically a way of letting a consumer have a short credit, or sometimes a longer credit if you combine it with installments, but a short credit to be able to look at the goods and feel a little bit more secure. Sometimes also, especially younger ones are using it as a way of financing their lifestyle. A lot of debate about that in Sweden, that some of the actors in offering invoicing payments has been a little bit too willing to accept credit for younger ones. There has been examples of people buying pizza on installment and stuff like that, and that isn't really what it should be about. When it comes to
unhealthy, Patrik,
yeah, yes,
I have a question more, if you have time.
Yes, sure.
How about your own business website? Is English enough in Sweden?
English might be enough if you are selling something that is very attractive to the buyer. And also, if you're into B2B, that's more accepted. If you're into B2C, you really need to, if you're doing it in English, you really need to accept that you won't have the same reach as if you did it in Swedish, because many start their purchase journey on Google. And if they are Googling for something in Swedish, your site won't be up there. It might be a way of just dipping your toes in the market. It might be a way of doing that. But if you really trying to sell to Swedes, you probably should make sure that you translate it really well. Unless you have a product that is quite unique and that is well marketed to Swedes. Right. Let's move on. A quick one about abandoned purchases. This is the top reasons when we ask the Swedes why they canceled purchases during a 3-month period. And total price including delivery was too expensive. That could mean two things. Either that you really had a high fee on the delivery, or that it wasn't clear in the steps before you came to the checkout that you would add delivery costs. Number 2 reasons, the shop didn't offer the payment method I wanted to use. Let's say your brand isn't that well known and a consumer arrived to your site and you don't offer invoice. That could mean that the consumer abandoned the purchase. The payment process did not work. I think just in the Nordics there are 40 suppliers, not all are local, but there are 40 suppliers doing business in the Nordics in payment service providers like Nets. And it's really important to use those that are really stable. And that is also often a question of size, actually. Personal data registration was too much of a bother. Consumers today in Sweden and some other countries as well have been started to get used to having their details saved. And normally the details aren't nowadays not saved at shop level, it's saved at payment service provider level. So if we save the data, that means the consumer's data is saved for all the shops that have Nets or Klarna or PayX or whoever who's doing the payments for them. And that means that adding a lot of personal data, address and email and stuff like that could be a bother for a lot of merchants. A lot of consumers. There are some more. There's some more reasons, but download the report and you can look into that a little bit more. Yes,
I have
sure.
one question in connection with that. What is the Estonian goods, the reputation of those in Sweden? Should they have made in Estonia or made in Europe put on the product labels?
There aren't. I don't think there are any. I think it's basically the same. There are no negativity against Estonia, or I don't think there are a perception that there would be low quality. Swedes that has some knowledge about Estonia probably would say that Estonian is very good on digitization and the digital stuff. There isn't a bad reputation.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay, thank you.
But of course, the knowledge of Estonia in general is quite low, unfortunately, in the details. But I would say everybody knows what Estonia is and so forth. We need to address this also about retail, because retail is both retail and e-commerce. Consumers nowadays, they are jumping around between the different channels and demands basically to have the same service in every channel. But if we look at what has happening the latest years, we have a lot of shops closing. This is statistics from the US pre-corona, please mind. Last year, 7,000 shops closed in the US, but at the same time, 3,000 shops open. But then we are talking about budget shops. And this is a trend going all over the Western world. Low price is very interesting. And what will happen now is they have the perfect storm right now. We are in most countries having some kind of recession due to Corona, and that means that this trend will be enhanced. We will see a lot of both the existing low price chains that we have in the different countries. They will expand, but there also will be chains that expand to new countries. So I predict there will be a war amongst these budget shops. And again, this is for US, and this is what is the prediction until 2025. 75,000 more stores will be closed. They have, this is a bank that has done this analysis, and they haven't updated it. My guess would be that we are now talking about perhaps 125 or something like that, 125,000 more stores. So it's going to be a war out there, and the war is going on right now. This is just a few of the well-known brands in Sweden that has either gone completely bankrupt or having some kind of Chapter 11. Excuse me. So everyone that has that is a chain and have their base, have their foothold, or perhaps I would say the previous foothold in the physical world, they have problems right now. There are basically two kinds of companies: those who has really embraced the digital, and those who have resisted in some way. And everyone who has resisted in some way, they are either gone or have serious problems right now. And if you look at this chart, I'm going to explain it to you here. The blue bar is growth in store, in physical store. The orange one is growth online. So 2015, 77% of the growth came from the physical store, 23% came from the online industry. And look at 2018, none of the growth is in store. Here we're not talking about food, we are talking about goods like clothes and household goods and stuff like that, but not stuff like food.
Patrik?
So that's the reason why the chains have problems, because their foothold is basically in the physical world. So, yes.
I have one question to that. It's quite some impressive numbers, and it's nice to see the shift in online retail. So, to comment a bit on the 2019 trends in commerce. Now you said that it was close, and are you seeing some trends now online that are very strong?
Yeah, sure. We can jump to that part here. Here,
Well, if
here
it
we
comes
have.
over, we'll just wait.
No problem. I'll jump around a little bit. Here we have the increase of e-commerce in March. We have to remember, of course, this is quite new. This development. It's only 10 weeks old. This development. During 10 weeks, we have basically jumped into time machine in several ways. In one way, we have been, the consumers are by force digitized. They don't have any other way of making their purchases almost. So their behavior has moved forward, perhaps 2 years. Someone says 5 years, but in my mind, 2 years. And that means that if you look at the US, they have managed to get out numbers when it comes to the online percentage of retail sales. And look at 2020. During 8 weeks, the share got up to 27%. It took forever to get to 16%. It took basically 20 years to get to 16%, but it took just 8 weeks to get up to 27%. And that says something about the behavior here. And if you look at some numbers that my colleagues in e-commerce at PostNord has been able to produce, this shows the increase of e-commerce March compared with February in different categories. I've translated them below there. So you have first 25% plus in home electronics, 15% in clothes, 16% in books media, 25% in furniture, 20% sport, 15% toy child articles, and 75% in food. So there are definitely some areas that already shows some fantastic and incredible numbers actually when it comes to increase. And remember, we are only here. This statistic is only a few weeks of Corona crisis. If you look in the world, you can see the same, that some areas are really growing online. Everything is growing online except a few ones. Of course, tourism and travel, that's basically zero in most of the countries. The last one is actually quite interesting when it comes to food, because that is such a big part of our spending and has never really had the lift off. It hasn't had the development that many of the other categories has had. But sorry about this being in Swedish, but this is the share of 65 to 69-year-olds shopping food online. And you can see the blue one is 2019, and you have January, February, and March. And you see quite low, 5 to 9%, 6 to 4%, 7%, and in March 2020, 21%. That's an explosion, especially since there are so much money in the food online. This is billions worth of Swedish krona that has been shopped here. So in some areas, we are spending much time at home, so we like to do home decoration. We buy desks, we buy new stuff to our home. We are valuing our health in this situation as well, so we are buying sports equipment, running shoes, trying to keep fit. Food, of course, cosmetics. This is basically a change, moving from shopping in store to shopping online, and that's the case for many of these sectors. So this explosion will be even higher, because this is only a few weeks worth of statistics, including in March. I think it's basically the first 2 weeks was a little bit of a shock. Nobody bought anything, not online or in store. But after that, we started to adapt, and the numbers for April will probably exploding. And here you also have one troubling questionnaire. It's from Brian Solis, digital expert, and he did a quick survey: who's leading the digital transformation of your company? And COVID-19 won over customers and shareholders, or politics, quite high. And the problem here is those who wasn't prepared before this crisis, they will have a hard time adopting. It takes time to adopt if you have already or selling. If you are only selling in the physical world with physical stores, changing that to have more of a online presence, that takes time. It really takes time. So a lot of companies are in quite some trouble right now. I just wanted to go back a little bit to the basics, and that is the reasons to buy online. It's basically three things. It's price. Price is so important. When we started out for 13 years doing this survey, price was basically almost the only thing that mattered to buy online. The only reason you went online was price. So then convenience starting to grow. And I really thought that price wouldn't be that important in the future. It would be one factor, but not the major one. But it's still the major one. And assortment is, of course, another one. So these are the three reasons that you buy online. And the only thing that can that the physical store has to offer is sorry, jumping around, but I tried to be a little bit flexible here when the question came. So the reason the stores will keep on existing, and the reason why we as consumers will keep on visiting them, is probably the experience. This is a survey that an American company has made when it comes to malls. They asked consumers, what would make you go more to a mall, more times to a mall? 28%, if you look to the right, you see 28% says nothing could make me go to a mall more times. And if you look at the other things, it's farmers market, food hall, green space, groceries, indoor sport, BOPIS. BOPIS is buy online, pay in store, fitness center, health and wellness, showrooms. Everything of this, almost everything, okay, except groceries perhaps, everything else is some kind of experience. So that's what consumers are looking for now when they are going out in the city or going into a mall to visit stores. H&M has made some changes. They are testing a lot of things. In many of their stores, you can buy lunch and coffee. Another reason to visit their store. They are offering beauty treatments, doing nails. You have Casper in US that they have made an interesting thing actually. I think we do this without sound like this.
One question when you have time.
Yeah, sure.
Can you tell, it's very specific, what kind of value retail furniture companies are looking for in the present global situation?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, the question is, what kind of value are the retail furniture companies looking for during this situation?
What kind of value?
Yes. So what's valuable to the furniture companies?
Valuable in terms of?
I'll just return the question.
Yeah, please ask it again. I don't really understand the value part there. So the experience in a store is basically the reason why we will visit them in the future, not looking at goods placed on shelves. That's not the thing, unless it's low price. Like the mattress company Casper in the US, they have the front store is it's quite nice and a little bit different than other stores, but in the back they have something called the Dreamery, where you can book a time to test the mattress for that you want to buy. It's quite a line. It's a queue to do this. You probably can book a time tomorrow, and I wasn't able to film this, but I stole a video from YouTube where influencer tested this. So you meet up with a guy in pajamas, you get your own pajamas, and this guy, the sleep concierge, he leads you into a room, very ambient room, and you get to test your mattress, but you pay $25 for those 45 minutes. People love this. They share this in social media. And this is a good example of an experience. So maybe the physical store in the future will be a point of experience, not a point of sale. And also another trend that I think will be even stronger now is that the physical store is basically the new channel for e-commerce. We can see this happening in the US, we can see it happening in Sweden, but in a much smaller scale, of course. But the digital native brands, they are opening physical stores now to, and of course, they are not doing it at the same scale as the old brick and mortar chains are doing. But they want to let the customers meet the brand. That's happening all over, and also in Sweden. We have a successful clothing company called Naked. They are doing pop-ups all over the place. And lastly, what's happening in Sweden now? A lot of discussion that Amazon is expanding into Sweden. Not really confirmed yet, but there are some signs that this could actually be true this time. There have been a lot of rumors previously. This will have an impact, of course. This could be a way in for companies wanted to test their products, their idea on new markets, then Amazon could be a way of doing this. But Amazon isn't there yet. But this is something that you could keep an eye on. Well, that I have a lot of extra slides, but I see that the time is basically up, so I'll stop there. If you have any questions, if you just ask them in the chat.
Okay.
Or Q&A.
Thank you so much, Patrik. That was very interesting, especially to see the trends and how the numbers are changing from traditional, and especially how it changed elder people, how they began to consume online, and of course if this is going to stick after, and also as you said, the April numbers, second Q, to see this is a big social experiment. So I have a question. Is, in your opinion, what is the recommendation for the Estonian e-commerce companies that are trying to set up their own web shop here in Sweden? How will they adapt into the Swedish market to exist? To offer their products in Sweden?
I would say if you're very unsure on if you're not doing any e-commerce to other countries, if you have you could start with English. That could be a way of selling to several countries. You only have to make sure that you get the logistic in place. There are some countries doing this. They are having basically an international site that is open for a number of countries. So that could be a first step, but that is that isn't doing a market for real. For doing a market for real, you need to do some other things. You need to translate the page. You need to understand the payment preferences. You need to understand the delivery preferences. You need to be able to support the Swedish or the Danish or basically whoever in their native language. And I would say that don't underestimate the translation, and don't underestimate the need for to update your information all the time. It gets hard if you don't have the translation capabilities in-house. So the best way of doing this is to hire someone in that country. I see a lot of people hiring an expat, hiring someone that's moved from Sweden to, like in this case, to Estonia. But the problem is you quite quick lose the grip on how to express things 100%. It often gets to like 98%, and that's a problem when it comes to translations, because we are so smart we can immediately detect that, well, there's something wrong with this text.
Yeah.
So that's one advice, and you don't have to hide your identity. You could identify like an Estonian company, but you need to be in Swedish 100%. You need to be able to support customers in their own language if you want to do Sweden for real. But there are some cases where you can do this totally in English if you have a product that is unique and not available anywhere else, and that you still can market in Sweden. But that is a little bit harder.
I also what about strategies? Because a lot of the concerns may also evolve around how do you reach your target audience. So do you have any advice to use Google Ads, Analytics, Facebook, LinkedIn campaigns, Instagram, all these channels? Well, what would your opinion be the best?
There are a lot of brands all over the world, but also in Sweden, that has built their whole existence as a D2C brand, direct to consumer. They have their product of their own. They find their target audience through digital channels, very often through Instagram. They use Instagram to build their brand and targeting the right audience. The thing that I see a lot of times is that you really don't know your audience. The successful D2C companies, they know their audience exactly. They not only know what they like in your shop, they know their audience in a way that they know what they like in overall, what other brands they know, what they do in their spare time, and so forth. So it's really important to know your audience, and if you do that, it's not that hard to focus on them, especially if you have a strong brand in terms of tone and visuals and stuff like that. And if you need, you might need help from a local agency doing SEO or SEM, and that's not the hard part. The hard part is almost every time that you cannot express quite clearly what your audience is.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have room for more questions? Because then now is the time. Have any Estonian companies? I would just give you a couple of seconds to ask them. And meanwhile, thank you so much, Patrik. It's really been interesting and shed some light on the Swedish market.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it. Very nice to be able to be at your webinar and talking to you all. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions or anything, feedback or anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It doesn't seem like there are any more questions, so oh, just pop one up. No. Okay, I think we are good.
All right, just trying to see if I can share my slides again for some reason. Well, we will send it to you anyways. I just wanted to show a couple of things. Thank you very much, Patrik, for very good presentation, and I am sure that everyone enjoyed it, and also that we will have more questions, and if there is any market specific questions, of course, you companies, you're welcome to contact us, and we are able to give you a specific sector overview. You can find our contacts in the slides that I cannot show you right now, but we will send it to you after the webinar. And thank you all for really good questions as well. I think it has been a good dialogue and really good content as well. We just a couple of things. Patrik mentioned. I have a little bit echo. Patrik, maybe you can. Yes, thank you. A couple of things we have. You mentioned, Patrik, PostNord report about e-commerce. So this report link you can also find on the AIS slides, and also many other useful links also in those slides. And also to inform you that export advisors, we are available to you in terms of any questions on all the export markets. Also wanted to also inform you that we have other webinars coming up, so so check it out on AIS website or on AIS Facebook site. I think that's it for today, and I just want to say again, thank you all for participating, and have a nice day.